NFL fans, Philadelphia Eagles fans, welcome back to a brand new episode of the J All Day Sports Show. I'm here bringing you another Sunday mock draft for your Philadelphia Eagles, all 7 rounds. With Howie Roseman coming out in the media saying we have to be patient on what they're doing this offseason, definitely has me leaning towards them not re-signing a lot of these free agents like Zack Baun, Mekhi Becton, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. It's going to be a very precarious offseason, so we really have to address these needs in our draft this year, right? Because we're not going to really have the money to outspend people, right? So they got to be careful with how they spend this money. So that's why we really have to nail this draft. Let's get into it. Real quick, Eagles fans, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help us get into the YouTube algorithm. Take a look at your screen right now, and let's get into this full 7-round mock draft. All right, we're picking at 32 on the board, obviously. There's some interesting names left on this board. Omarion Hampton, who Mel Kiper had going 12 to the Cowboys in his mock draft. I do like Colston Loveland. Donovan Eziraku, I really like as well. And a guy who's been absolutely murdering the combine is Landon Jackson, the edge defender from Arkansas. But PFF has him listed at 6'7", 280, and he came in at 6'6", 264 at the combine, right? So you really got to take what PFF says into consideration, right? Because some of these numbers are not 100% accurate, okay? But he was extremely productive, man. I'm like stuttering. That's how unbelievable he was. He had a 40.5-inch vertical leap. That's second best in combine history. Absolutely blew the doors off it. And he also ran a 4.68 40, man. Dude, absolutely crushed the combine. He's going to be rising up draft boards in the next couple weeks for sure. But guys, I think I'm still going to go with Donovan Eziraku. Extremely productive, 14 sacks, 20 hits, 26 hurries. Great against the run as well. Solid pass rush win rate, run stop rate at the top of the class as well. Josh Sweat, sorry to break it to you guys, he will not be back next season. I know there's speculation that he could, but he won't. I'm telling you guys, he's going to get a massive deal on the open market that the Eagles will not be able to match. So we need to bring in another edge guy. I think Donovan Eziraku is perfect. 6'2", 247. He definitely has that outside linebacker frame as well, in my opinion. A lot of other pundits are mocking him to the Eagles as well. He's played outside tackle, not so much off ball, but he is able to play that outside linebacker position. Donovan Eziraku is going to the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round. Now, we're picking at 64 in the second round. Another late round pick for the Bird Gang here in the second round. If you look at this Philadelphia Eagles roster, cornerback definitely interests me as well. But another spot that could be interesting, guys, is a guy like Chris Paul Jr. in the linebacker spot. Nakobe Dean probably isn't going to be ready for this season, right? And it doesn't look like Zack Baun is going to be back. Maybe he could, but getting a true off-ball middle linebacker makes a lot of sense. Remember, this is picked 64 overall. This isn't a mid-second round pick where there's still superstar talent on the board. So drafting an off-ball linebacker makes a lot of sense in Vic Fangio's scheme. He needs that general in the middle of the defense to come up for the run, drop in coverage, to do a little bit of everything, right? Chris Paul Jr. makes a lot of sense to me. When I'm looking at who's left on the board, bringing in an offensive lineman like Ozzie Trapillo, I like that as well. And Wyatt Millam is a guy I like too. Didn't have the greatest Senior Bowl, so that could be a very interesting pick as well. As we get lower and lower down the draft board, there's not a ton of guys that I don't think we could potentially get later in the draft. So for me, I'm going to trust my gut and think that what Howie Roseman said about being patient means a lot of these guys aren't going to be back, and Zack Baun could be one of those cap casualties per se. I know he's a free agent, but they don't have the cap space to sign a lot of these guys. I would love to have him back, but in that $10 to $12 million range, it's just not possible for the Philadelphia Eagles unless they do some restructuring of contracts. That's why Chris Paul Jr. is my pick in the second round for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Pick 96 overall for the Eagles. Cornerback, definitely in play. Offensive lineman in play for me as well. Kobe Bryant is a very interesting player at the cornerback spot for me. I don't know if the Eagles are going to trade up in this draft. They do have a couple of extra fifth round picks that maybe they package with a fourth or a third to move up a little bit in this draft. But for me, we want to fill positions of guys that aren't going to be here, man. So what about interior defensive line? That makes a lot of sense for me as well. Deion Walker from Kentucky, Caldwell from Oregon, Pegs from Mississippi, all pretty solid guys. So for me right now, guys, I'm circling cornerback and interior defensive line. For me, Deion Walker is the best guy available on the inside of the defensive line. Had a pretty solid career. Was really good in 2023. Not as good in 2024, right? It didn't look like he played a full season. He kind of missed a game. He missed a week 6 game, missed weeks 11 and 12. So I can kind of think that he probably dealt with a bunch of injuries this past year, right? So he had 8 sacks in 2023 and was extremely productive. So maybe if he's healthy, because he clearly was not healthy this year, right? That's a guy we take on in this third round, late in the third round, pick 32. Pick what? 96 overall, guys. So there's not a ton of talent there. But do we take a flyer on the cornerbacks, right? Cornerback I don't know if Darius Slay is going to be back. My gut says probably not. I just don't think he's going to be back. And then he has a void year in his contract, so he might, if he wants to play a couple more years, goes out and get some more money. Noah Williams makes a lot of sense for me as well. The cornerback from Cal. Big, 6'1", 200 pounds. They had a lot of success with that kind of body type with Quinyon Mitchell, right? So putting him on the outside makes some sense. Solid against the run like Quinyon Mitchell was. They didn't do it, especially in that Super Bowl. They only did man coverage like twice in the whole game, right? So zone is a little bit more important, right? So Noah Williams definitely makes a lot of sense for me. Mello Dotson is on the board. Coverage grade, man coverage grade is really exceptional as well. Mello Dotson, he makes a lot of sense, man. I think he might be the best corner left on the board. I'm going to go Mello Dotson, the cornerback from Kansas here. Okay, now we're picking in the 4th round. Now we got 3 fifth-round picks after that. So we want to just build some depth. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon makes a lot of sense. Just bring in another tight end in this room. Dallas Goedert's contract and Grant Calcaterra's contract is up at the end of this year. So bring in a kind of go D-line and maybe a wide receiver in the next couple rounds. I do like Terrence Ferguson here at pick 129 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we have 3 picks in the 5th, 162, 166, and 169. For me, if we take a look at this draft class, Colby King is an interesting prospect here, guys, at 162 in the draft. But we already got a linebacker. I don't know if I want to go there again at this spot. Nick Nash, the wide receiver from San Jose State. He's a really good player as well. Connor Colby, the guard from Iowa. He's an excellent run blocker, right? Not the best pass blocker, right? But he's a pretty solid guy in the 5th round. Nick Nash, I do really like him as well. Tyler Cooper from Minnesota is available. Danny Stutzman is available. We got to really figure out in this 5th round where we want to bring depth, right? We got our edge defender, we got our linebacker, our cornerback, our tight end. Going D-line is probably a spot we need to address here. CJ West is available from Indiana. He's an excellent run defender. And in that 3-4 scheme, we need a big guy in the middle. 6'2", 317. Tim Smith from Alabama. 6'4", 314. Tufana from Utah. 308. Biggers from Georgia Tech. Nah, not the best graded guy, right? So CJ West makes a lot of sense for me. 80 grades all 3 years in college. Very, very impressive stuff. I'm going to bring him in at pick 162. Now, picking at 166, Nick Nash is still available, right? And A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are very expensive wide receivers. We drafted Ainias Smith last year, he didn't really pan out too well. I'm going to go Nick Nash, bring in a wide receiver here in the 5th round. He's a really good player right now. At pick 169, we do got some interior offensive linemen like Connor Colby from Iowa still on the board here. I really want to bring in another offensive lineman just as like a depth guy, right? So let's check out offensive tackle, interior offensive line, see kind of where we're at. Seth McLaughlin from Ohio State, good, not great. Monaheim, the center from USC, is available. Emory Jones, the tackle from LSU, had a really bad year this year. John Williams, Jack Nelson from Wisconsin. Jack Nelson, I like him a lot. He only gave up 1 sack this year. Dramatic improvement from last year. Excellent pass blocker. He played big programs too. He got his lunch eaten by Abdul Carter and company, but who really didn't, right? But other than that bad game against Penn State, he was as solid as it gets in a big program school, 6'7", 316. I'm bringing in another tackle/guard to the Philadelphia Eagles just to add a little depth to that room. A lot of free agents in this room. We got a B overall grade from PFF. Donovan Ezuraku. I drafted Chris Paul in the 2nd round, guys, late in the 2nd round, 64 overall, because if Zach Bond's not here, and then we're in a situation where Nakobe Dean's not ready, Oren Burks is there, but we're really, really thin at linebacker, right? So I think we needed to use a premium pick, 64 overall, on a guy like Chris Paul. We brought in Mello Dotson, the cornerback, Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, CJ West, Nick Nash, we got an A grade, and then Jack Nelson, the tackle, right? I think we did really good in this draft, covering all of our bases, right? We need some tight end depth. We need some corner depth. We need some wide receiver depth, in my opinion. Nick Nash is a steal at 166 overall. And Jack Nelson kind of can learn from these great offensive linemen, and Stoutland, man. You know, O-line you. Stoutland is the man. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this mock draft. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like this draft? Do you not like this draft? I would love to know how you feel about it in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe.